You are listening to the Coach Sam Show, and today we have an awesome guest. This man is a man that lives with extreme integrity, has a huge impact on me. And I was just telling him before, had a huge impact on me in the short time that I got to be with him. Got to be with him about 8 months. He was my special teams coach with the Rams. His accolades are tremendous. If you look up his bio, it's unbelievable. But what he meant to me was he was a role model in an industry that is ultra competitive, and he just stood out amongst the rest. And now he's the current special teams coach for the Tennessee Titans. And I know they're planning to have an awesome year. So, Bones, Coach Fossil, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah. Love being on, man. Appreciate the invite. And you opened it up and you said Coach Sam. And I was like, yeah.
That's right. And actually, you're going to like this too, because as we talk into this, Bones is like a workout fiend. It's actually spelled Coach 5 a.m. is the way that I'd spell it on that, because on Train Up Fitness is we run 5 a.m. workouts 5 times a week. And that's what we do. And I know if you weren't coaching and if you lived in Ashland, Virginia, you'd be with me working out. But
I have lunch at 5 a.m., Sam. What are you talking about?
oh my gosh, I love it. But give me an intro on you from your perspective. Like, who is Coach Bones? Who are you?
Yeah, it's Coach Sam. I'm going to refer to you, Coach Sam, because I love you, dude. Before I even get into that,
Please do not.
We drafted you, and I was in the war room, and you were known, but you were very known by me. And I was like, yes. I don't think we had a fullback on the roster,
Yeah.
especially special teams guys. So from that moment, sometimes the sixth, seventh rounders are kind of like, yeah, they talk about throwing darts. And I was like, we threw a perfect one right there. Nobody knows this yet. But anyways, when I got hired by Tennessee in January, I got asked the same question you just asked me, like, who am I? What am I about? And that's a hard one for me to answer, to be honest with you, because I think over the years I adapt, I change based on a lot of things, and most of them, good. So it's hard for me to say what I am, especially like my coaching style. But I'm married. I got 3 beautiful daughters that mean the world to me. I've been responsible for a lot of young men, players in the NFL that I have a ton of respect and admiration for, and a lot of love for, and a lot of concern for. So I think if there's anything, it's I like to be talked about more than just a coach, for sure, because it's way more than that. And it's not to the fans in the NFL because it's about winning and losing in playoffs, but just on the underground, this, Sam, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that is so valuable for all of us building relationships. So it's a great question that I still haven't figured out how to answer. But I'm just trying to be flexible with the times and the people, and that's probably it.
No doubt. But at the end of the day, right now, the roles that you wear might not be your identity, which is good,
Yep.
right? But the roles that you have right now, the hats you wear, you're a husband, you're a
Yep.
dad, and you're a coach. I
Yep.
was telling you before, part of our mission, not part of our mission at Hanover is to build better husbands and better fathers who
Yep.
show up, love, and don't quit. Let's
Yep.
start there. What has it been like? Because coaching is a taxing, time demanding industry, right? Like,
Yep.
it requires all of you.
Yep.
How have you also loved your wife first and then loved your 3 beautiful daughters and then
Yep.
become a coach? How does that work?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. To be honest with you, it's pretty easy. The the mindset of when I'm home, I'm home. When I'm at work, I'm at work. But I can FaceTime and call. Um, but it takes definitely an intentional mindset to be present for both parts, the professional and the personal life.
Yeah.
Uh, Very lucky to have a wife who is strong-willed and a very loving mother. I got 3 daughters they're wild and crazy, 13, 11, and 6, as they should be.
I was going to ask how old. Yeah.
Um, and then the football part of it is, I know what my job is, and I try to do the best of my ability. But those are 3, roles that I don't take for granted. Husband, father, and coach.
Yeah.
They all kind of blend together because
Yeah.
coach. I feel like I'm becoming now that I'm 51 years old, if you can even believe it. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm parental in some ways, and then with my kids, sometimes I'm a little bit of a coach, and sometimes with my wife, I'm all loving. So
Yeah.
um, it's cool. I tell people this a lot when I talk about my work, and I talk about how fortunate I am to do what I do. But so I say, okay, when I when I wake up in the morning and I go to work, got my boys.
Yeah.
And then, the day's over. I get my car and I drive home, and I go home and I got my girls.
Yeah.
So I wake up, I go to work, I got my boys. I go
Yeah.
back, I got my girls. And so it's a constant just, loving where you're at and
No
uh,
doubt.
yeah, just being present for the people that you're around.
And there's this truth that like, yeah, the hat might change, right? Like the role
Yeah.
might, you're not necessarily coach at home, but you're still John Fossil. Like you're still who you were created to be. So it's
Yeah.
not like you're not changing your identity and who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
something that stood out to me, and I know I said this before, but I want to reiterate this so people hear this. Um, in a coaching industry that might lend itself to like a lot of crude talk and things like that, you did not, you just didn't partake in that. It just wasn't a part of your language. You weren't belittling, you weren't demeaning. And I've had a lot of great coaches that I still admire that might go into that a little bit. I've been wrong and gone into that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you didn't. You didn't. On top of that, I remember vividly, I can see you in the Rams facility working out alone, just like blaring some Christian music, which usually in the weight room, Christian music is not playing.
But it's so good.
I remember you coming in meetings, special teams meetings, and motivating, not just getting into the strategy. Like the one that we'll talk through here in a second. You brought up two people, and I'm pretty sure you brought up someone that was like well known and someone that was like young and trying to make it. And you had the one that was well known and said like, "Hey, you are the most important person on this team, and everything I do is for you." And then you had that person say it back to them, and it was just this like, "Oh, okay." Like this, you would motivate. You also would help a practice squad player who I wasn't playing on Sundays. Yeah, there's always a chance with injuries and all that, but like I wasn't the next guy up by any means. And you would still stay back with me and teach me and help me and coach me. And all that stuff does not go unnoticed. So, where did that come from? Did you learn that from your dad? I know your dad's a Super Bowl winning coach. Did you learn it from him? How did that form? Because I'm sure you're that way at home. I'm sure you're that way. How did that come out?
Yes, I think, and that's a great question. And my dad had a ton to do with it. Probably not intentionally, but growing up as a coach's kid, I was always around, not in meetings, not a part of practice, because I was 6 years old, 10 years old, 14 years old, locker rooms. So it's almost more like osmosis, recognizing and respecting the relationships between coaches and players and coaches. And I feel like over the years, I probably was just very lucky to be around and witness really good dudes as far as coaches taking care of their players. And I grew up on the college field because my dad didn't get a job in the NFL until I was actually out of high school. So my whole youth was spent on a junior college football field, University of Utah, Weber State, Stanford. That's where my dad was coaching. Um, but I think when you talk about, me spending time with you, you're a very, very special person, but so is everybody else.
Yeah.
You know, I spent as much time with you as I would anybody else that really wanted it. And some guys I would have to kind of go to and invite in and talk football or not football. And some guys would just naturally come in, which would be you. But anybody that I felt needed it, where I had to go to them or they wanted it because they came to me, everybody deserved the same attention, regardless of practice squad or
Yeah.
start, whatever. It really just didn't matter. And I think even more so now, what I respect is the young players where they're at and what they're doing, whether it's combine or rookie camps or training camps. Like in that moment, it's kind of everything to them at that time.
Yeah.
Recognize how valuable that time is for them. And I want them to feel like they were given the most by me to get something out of that. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's
100%.
really recognizing how important it is in that moment for that young man,
Yeah.
making sure I give him all I got. So he doesn't ever walk away feeling like he didn't get the best out of the people that were kind of responsible for him. Um, and go back to the first thing you said is I don't curse. It's very easy to not, in my opinion, for me,
Yeah.
because it's habits, and I made a decision, probably might have been in college, maybe when I first started coaching, that that's just not something I was going to do.
Yeah.
But for a little while, I had to be intentional about watching my tongue.
Yeah.
And then for a while, you just train yourself that you just don't use certain words. But I will say this, I do allow myself one curse word per year. So from January
Love it.
1st,
I love it.
so from January 1st to December 31st, in literally a calendar year, I allow myself one curse word. But if I don't use it in those 365 days, it does not carry over. So build up like five in 1 year because I haven't done it the previous 4 years. So there's been a few times where maybe in the last 6 years, let's say when I was with the Cowboys, maybe 3 of those 6 years, I used my one curse word per year, and probably 3 of them I didn't. Um,
Did it freak people out when you did it? Like when you,
yeah, and it was semi-intentional
yeah,
for for theatrics and to get a point
no
across that
doubt.
you
Yeah.
needed to get across. But you don't need to curse to really drive home a point. You don't need to curse to um, be stronger. I did it more for just like sometimes you need a wake up call in the room, and
Yeah.
that's one way to do it that I don't like to do, but it's not a slip of the tongue. It's very intentional use the one time I allow myself.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just something that I think every coach they have their little thing, and I got quite a few of them. That's just one of them.
There's like that principle though of like, there's power in our words.
Yeah.
Our words matter. And I've been thinking about this past year. Like every year you try to get better and better as a coach, as a leader, and all this stuff. And I've been thinking about this. If you can control what you say, you're a pretty powerful person. I think two things. If you can control what you eat and you can control what you say,
Yeah.
you're pretty powerful. You know what I mean? Like you have pretty
Yeah.
good discipline if you can do those two
Yeah.
things.
Right.
But it's not always easy because emotions will ride up. But when you do have that principle that you have of like, hey, I'm gonna allow myself one. It's like one, I've got to be really, really intentional with my words, right?
Yeah.
And like I'm gonna speak life as much as possible. And that's what I remember about you. Like
Yeah.
you'd speak life over people. You would build people up. You don't remember this, but gosh, the most fun practice is that first like special teams day where we do like the special teams competition. Are y'all doing
Right.
this this year at the Titans? Y'all doing
Oh, you better believe it. They don't
it?
know about it though. It's coming.
Gosh. Like I remember like I'm going against like Tyler Higbee, I'm going against Bryce, and I'm loving life because that is like it's just like it's like backyard fights kinda is what it is. You know?
Yeah.
And I remember like I did all right that day, but what meant so much to me is you pulled me aside. You said, "Hey, look," because you could kind of see the way it was going offensively. Of like, "Hey, we're going to be using." What sucks is Cooper's like one of my best friends that I've had in the playing in the NFL. But it's like, hey, we're probably gonna be using Cooper more than you because we're going
Yeah.
to go 11 and get him on the
Yep.
field as much as possible, which totally makes sense, you know. Um, but like you were like, hey, Sam, this is your way on. I need you to know, you need to do that every single day. And you're just looking me in the eyes and being firm and clear. And I just remember being like, like there's like power behind what you say when you are so intentional with what you say. Does that make sense? Is that coming off
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it just goes back to the old school mindset. When you talk to somebody, shoot them straight. That's what we've learned in the NFL, right, Sam? Like people don't want to be misled or sugar coated. Like tell them how it is, look them in the eye,
Yep.
be brief, tell them what they got to do, and then they got to do it. And that's,
Yep.
there's power in looking somebody in the eye and being honest. Like, I mean, we're talking about simple stuff that should be done all the time, but it isn't.
Yeah.
but there's just and this is the things that I've learned over the years too. So I can't say that when I was 27 years old when I had my first job, or even 34 years old when I got my first coordinator job, that I was like this. I think we all grow and develop and learn and get better, hopefully. And I look back a lot of times in my first couple of years in the NFL, I'm like, gosh, I wish I could have been better for a couple of these guys that I have in my head, because maybe I could have helped them a little bit more. But that's what we all look back and think, you know. So uh, I try to apply all the things that I've learned, all the things that I've failed at, to make sure that the next thing I give the guy can help him more than what I did previously. So we're all trying to get better, and none of us ever arrive and think
Right.
that we got it, you know.
Yeah.
So
No
I'm
one
thinking, yeah,
no one ever like reaches their full potential, right? Like that's impossible. We'd have to be perfect every step of the way to reach that. But I do want to explore how close we can get. Like that's the like let's see how close we can get. And that means we've got to be honest with ourselves. We got to admit mistakes. We got to keep going. Let me ask you this. Who who were the coaches that you looked up to? Maybe growing up, maybe early on in your profession. If you had to narrow it down to three, and I know there's probably a billion. If you had to narrow it down
yeah,
to three guys that you really looked up to, who would those be?
yeah. That's a great one. I'll keep my dad out of it because that's probably an obvious one. That's obviously very personal. Um, that's a great question. I probably haven't been asked that before, so that's why it's not just rolling right off my tongue. Probably the first instinct I have was my senior year in high school. I hurt my shoulder, so I didn't play hardly at all my senior year. So I ended up going to a school called Milford Academy. It was a postgraduate school in Milford, Connecticut, and the school was made for um, basically Prop 48 kids, which back then kids didn't qualify to earn an athletic scholarship to go to major college football,
Yeah.
or for or troublesome, or if just needed a year like what I needed. I needed to go play another year because I didn't play my senior year in high school. So I went to this school called Milford Academy, and it was just a collection of all kinds of different, young men that needed something.
Yeah.
And our coach there, his name was Jeff Bavino. He was the head coach, the athletic director. He wore a ton of hats because it was a very small school and it was a football factory. Um, and he's one of the earliest coaches I can remember giving me an opportunity, really feeling like he cared about me, even though he had a lot of people he had to care for. He had a way to make me feel like he cared about me and I wasn't just
Yeah.
number 11. Um, and I was there for a year and a half, and I ended up getting a scholarship in college.
Yeah.
Really, the opportunity he gave me.
Yeah.
So that would be fun. Jeff Bavino. Um, Probably another coach I had in college, Dave Arslanian, was the head coach at Weber State. So I went to University of Pacific. They dropped football. I transferred to Weber State University, where Dave Arslanian was the head coach. But Dave Arslanian also recruited me out of Milford Academy. I turned him down to go to Pacific. Once
Wow.
while he re-recruited me, and I was kind of sheepish, like, okay, coach, this time I'm going to come.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a great, great man. And there's probably a lot that I learned from him without even knowing it at the time, as far as poise, um, language, some quirky things he did in meetings that, when I'm
Yeah.
19 years old, I'm thinking, like, what is this? This is this is stupid. But now I look back on it, like, this was the greatest thing ever. He made something called the Guide to Success, and he gave that to every single player, and it was just a book of a whole bunch of different things. And I actually made one when I was like 29 years old, when I was the head coach at New Mexico Highlands University before my first NFL job. So I made a guide to success that I gave to all my players that were in college.
I love it.
Um, Said to ask for three.
Anybody in the NFL that comes to mind that you got to like be with that yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's a good one. I think
There's probably so
one
many.
thing,
You know what I mean? I get it.
there's a lot, but one guy that has always stuck out to me that meant a lot to me was Brian Schneider. He's been a special teams coordinator in the NFL. Now he's the assistant special teams coach for the Washington Commanders. Our whole staff got fired in Baltimore after the 2007 season, and I was out of work for like 2 months. And I went to the combine in Indianapolis without a job, and I had just gotten engaged. So I went there basically looking for a job, and he didn't know me. He was a special teams coordinator for the Raiders at the time. I met him through another buddy that was coaching there, and he took the time to talk to me at the combine without knowing me, knowing I was looking for a job. He spent time talking to the head coach and brought me in for an interview, do some recommendations. And then he ended up recommending to the head coach of the Raiders to hire me as the assistant special teams coach, which they did. Um, and I only spent a year with him because the next year he went on to USC as a special teams coach. But I've stayed in touch with him as really a coaching friend, not necessarily like mentor or anything like that, but just somebody who you just remember people that kind of go out of their way for you when they don't have to.
Yes.
And so that stuck with me a lot. That here's a guy that didn't know me. They had a job open, but he probably could have interviewed a whole bunch of people. So why did he interview me? And he took a chance and hired me, and probably was one of the reasons why I can't say that I'm here, but if I don't get hired in Oakland that year, where would my life have gone?
Yeah.
Probably somewhere else, just great. But anyway, so he's always been a huge guy for me to just always, every time I see him or compete against him, because the last 15 years we played against each other a lot.
Yeah.
And in pregame I say, hey, Brian, appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. He's still mad at me for always thanking him, but I have to thank him. Like you made a difference in my life, and you changed it at that moment. So
No doubt. It's
yeah,
like God has these like divine appointments, like where you're in this space, you don't know what's next, and you need someone to partner alongside of you and just be like, hey, I believe in you. I see you, like rally, let's get back on it. Let's get back on the horse and let's go, and
yeah,
have those people in those moments. Like, that's part of something called like the hero's journey, is getting like the mentor to like get around you and rally around you and then advance you through that hardship, which is cool that he got to be that for you.
Yeah. I think send a message too in that, but I've applied ever since that time, is to make sure you always take the time for people that you don't know, that you owe nothing to, that kind of need you for a couple minutes or something, is to not just be like, I don't know you, and I can't help you. Sometimes people just need to be heard, and you need to take time to hear them. And I've applied that for sure, hopefully successfully. I'm sure there's times that I've failed for sure since then, but I've been very intentional about making sure I listen when I feel like this is happening right now, with somebody who might be talking to me for the same reasons.
Yeah.
And I've hired 3 assistant special teams coaches since then that I didn't know for that reason. Guys who were out of work that I didn't know. I don't want to hire, a buddy or somebody that of mine like that. I want to hire somebody that I feel like would do a really good job, that would be very grateful for it, that I don't know, that has all obviously earned it. So anyways, it's just good reminders to always listen to the people that you don't know that might be needing something from you for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. Something else that I thought was really cool about the way that you coached, which I thought was a little bit different. You thought differently. You still probably think differently. Meaning, like, you're not doing drills that you just saw someone else do. Like, even the drill work, I remember drills that we were doing. We're like bear crawling underneath the things. We're like doing rolls, and then we're getting up and finding stuff. But you're bringing joy to all the different things that we're doing. And you're not just doing a drill just for the sake of doing a drill. When you're thinking about organizing practice, what goes through your mind when you're thinking through drill work, teamwork? Like, what is going through your mind when you're organizing that?
Yeah, it's a good call. So I think right off the bat, 2 things come to mind is doing drills that are very relevant to the game or the skill that you're kind of phase that you're working on that day. So it's got to be realistic, whether even if it's just like rolling or crawling or bear crawling, anything that's maybe movement skill related or technical skill related, anything that's like that. The other thing I try to be really mindful of is this might sound kind of crazy, and you could argue this either way, is I never like to repeat drills exactly as they are. So I don't really copy and paste drills, whether it's the drill we did last week. There could be the same element of open field angle tackling, but it's always a little bit different. I'll never go back and look at last year's scripts to see exactly what we did a year ago to this day for the same reason.
Yeah.
So I try not to repeat drills in the exact fashion, and I try to keep them definitely pertinent as best possible, technical or movement related to
Yep.
what actually happens on the field.
Yeah, and that point, like it's got to transfer, right? Like it's all meaningless if it doesn't transfer to the game.
Yep.
So like
Yep.
what you even when we were like bear crawling and rolling, if someone just hears that and like, oh, it's just for the sake of fun. No, you're emphasizing that when we're down on the ground, you got to get back up and you got to go play ball. And you would
Thank you.
show us on tape how that happened. But
Yeah.
this is where the drill showed up. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
It's it. It's called pop-up game. And so sometimes I might not tell you why we're doing this drill. So I know even nowadays some guys are doing it and I can see in their head they're like, oh, why are we doing this drill? But there's a reason.
Yep,
And it could be as simple as, hey, pop-up game. You're on the ground, man. Get yourself off the ground. We gotta go.
no doubt.
So there's some of it is very clear what it's for, and some of them there's a little bit of hidden meaning behind why we're doing
Are
it.
you focused on, I know this sounds very elementary, but like even with NFL guys, are you focused on still keeping things fun? I know that's like a some coaches might their skin might crawl when I say that. You know what I mean? But like keeping things just fun and joyful and I remember that about special teams with you. Like, is that a
Yeah,
focus of yours?
absolutely. And that would be maybe a hidden message behind some of the practice plans or practice drills we do. Is I might not come out and say, hey guys, this is going to be a lot of fun, but try to create the practice in a way where it just is without having to be said that this is what it's going to be. Because I think, at least for me, I feel like I do a lot better at my job when there's some fun and joy involved.
Yeah.
And I think you can mix, Sam. I think you can mix business and joy at
Yes.
the same time. Like you can work very, very hard and have it still be fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working with, a Bryce Hager, like Sam Rogers and Bryce Hager. If you two guys were partnered up, man, this is going to make the teaching tape. Like in my head, like I already know this one's going to be a teaching tape to show how this gets done. And so it's interesting too when we do drills, Sam. A lot of times I don't try to manufacture who goes against who. I just let guys kind of partner up because certain guys attract to each other.
Yeah.
So very quickly I can see, if you pick Bryce Hager out, but I don't know you very well because you're just a rookie, I know that you love to work because I already know Bryce Hager is the
Correct.
hard worker. So you want to work, and I know that because you picked out Bryce. But I also know there's something about Bryce that attracted you to him. So it's kind of
Oh,
like a two,
yeah.
like I found out about you and I found out about Bryce just by seeing who likes to match up with who. So anyways, that's a whole different, deeper football discussion. But
Yeah.
um, I think too, if we're talking a little bit of football right here, is I think coaches sometimes try to over script and over control like a practice or a session, kind
Yeah.
of like parents nowadays. Sometimes as parents, we overschedule our kids and
Yeah.
we try to do too much for them. And so there's an element of that where I try to remember, like, let's not overschedule my kids. They're kids. It's important for them to still have fun and go swimming and play basketball in the backyard. But it's also important for pro athletes to, have a good buddy match up and run around a little bit and make a mistake, on the practice field. We'll tighten it up, but let's go have some fun. Let's sweat. I'm rambling, but
No, that's right. I,
yeah,
I wanted to ask about that exact thing you just hit on because it applies in different areas. This applies as a coach. This applies as a leader. This applies as a dad. Structure and freedom. How,
yeah,
how do you how do you balance? Where's the tension? What comes to mind when I say that? Because when I wouldn't have said that ever that your practices or drills were not structured, but I
yeah,
also would have said there was a lot of freedom. So like
yeah.
talk me through the freedom that you give players because you would give us different tools. Like I think about you, I wasn't taught the slingshot move in college. And like you're teaching me these different tools that I can use in the NFL. Like, hey, when exact I was looking for like an exact answer. Like, hey, when exactly do I use this? And you're like, Sam, like I can't give you exact answers all the time with this. You know, like
Yes.
so
Yeah.
structure and freedom. How do you balance that? How do you create that tension as a coach, as a
Yeah.
dad? What comes to mind?
Yeah, that's a great call. And that slingshot is an interesting one because I get asked that still a lot. Like, when do I do it? I don't. It just kind of you'll know.
Yeah, you'll
You're
feel
not
it.
it's gonna happen naturally. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I did it.
Yeah,
That's something. It's a great point by you. And I've never had it put to me that way. The structure and the freedom because there has to be both
yeah,
for sure. Um, I can think of examples this past season in Dallas where that applied on game day a couple of times. And I think a lot of times as coaches, we try to over control things where we take more of a structure element than a freedom element because we want to have control over what happens,
yeah,
you know. But if you're asking me, maybe sometimes to my detriment, but I'm okay with it because I can take the criticism and the blame. Uh, I have started to allow the players to have more freedom because they perform better when they're not worried about committing a penalty or doing something wrong. You know what I mean? And I could give you examples, two times last year in Dallas where um, we created a really good mindset, I think, on special teams because there was a structure behind it. There was a plan, but the players had a lot of freedom to play football.
yeah,
And I think that people don't realize is um, football happens, man, and it's a very imperfect game. And you could practice, watch film on everything you want, but then that ball gets kicked and things change very quickly.
yeah,
We ran a fake punt last year against Houston, and it was just based off of the look. It wasn't even called. The players, our PP, basically had the freedom to check to a fake if we got this certain look that
yeah,
we were allowed to do. It was, the head coach allowed it, and we got the look like it was week 12. I didn't think we'd ever get it all season. We got it. We checks to it. We complete it, but he's about 2 yards short of the first down, gets tackled, and I got crushed. But that's kind of part of the
yeah.
risk
It's the
reward.
risk.
There's another one we blocked the punt and the cross line of scrimmage and we touched it and they recovered it. And um, but the guys, I've always thought, Sam, the guys play hard. They believe in each other. When the coach gives them a plan, but then allows them to execute it um, without any fear of failure. So this is another. We could spend 90 minutes on just talking about structure and freedom
Yeah, no doubt.
and the benefits of it, but also the pains with it. Um, but that's just I'm just never going to change that. I'm very flexible, but I'm not going to probably ever compromise my willingness to give players the ability to play the game. And I can take the bullets that come from the freedom mistakes, I guess you will.
Yeah, like freedom for sure is messier, right? Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
has to, but we at any level, dad or coach, we've got to be okay with a certain level of messiness because the
yeah,
other option is control. And with
yep,
control, there's this constant fear of disappointing dad, disappointing coach, instead of being all you could be. With
yeah,
freedom, it's like, hey, go be all you could be. But here's the boundaries, right? Like
yeah,
here's the smart boundaries, but you're free within here, as opposed to saying like, take a step with your right foot, take a step with your left foot. Like the simple thing that I remember me playing like wing on punt was like, I'm like, hey, again, because I was so used to do this exactly this way, do this exactly this way. I was like, hey, where's my alignment? And you're like, hey, it's kind of here. And I'm like, all right, but like, you're like, hey, where do you feel good with it? And there's like a conversation about where I felt good, how deep I should be, how close I should be. But when you do that, then I all of a sudden I take more ownership of my position, of my alignment, because I had a little bit of say in it. And I had a little bit
Yeah.
of like conversation around it. And it's like, oh, Bones, this worked.
There you
Uh,
go.
so yeah, I think it's huge to get. How do you apply that as being? This would be hard. I have my first girl on the way coming up, so I'm about to tap into this world. My
Nice, man. There you go.
37 weeks pregnant right now.
Oh,
Uh,
so you're right there.
oh man, so we have two little boys right now. I have Caleb and Lucas. Caleb is 4 years old. Lucas is 2 years old. And I'll tell you, I'm all about freedom with my boys because I'm like, if you get hurt, I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, get up, you're fine. I love you.
Yeah.
You can do it. I'm wondering if like I'm gonna become more protective over my girl. How have you done that with three girls? Right? Like
Yes.
how do you balance structure and freedom at home?
Yeah, that's a good call. And my wife was fantastic at that. My wife is probably more of the structure, probably because she has to be because she's home more with them.
Yeah,
You know, and then daddy comes home and I'm a little bit more of the freedom.
yeah,
So there's a balance with me and my wife on
yeah.
not good cop, bad cop, because structure doesn't mean bad cop and freedom doesn't mean good cop, you
Correct.
know. So I think to me, maybe just because how I grew up, I think you said it best. Freedom, there's still boundaries, but they might be a little bit wider
Yeah,
when you want to be willing to give your kids some freedom. And I think it's important for kids, NFL players, especially young guys. I think she, they need to be allowed to explore a little bit because everybody's a little different. You're a wing on punt. What works for that guy might not necessarily work exactly for you. So why would I try to put this round peg in that square hole? Um, Back to the girls, yeah, they're all a little bit different, Sam. And one thing my dad taught me, maybe he didn't teach me, but maybe one of the messages I heard him say, and I actually used this with my girls maybe a couple of weeks ago. I want to make sure I say this right. And this is also arguable too, but I subscribe to it. He says, I'm not gonna, when he's talking about his players, he was saying, I'm not gonna always treat everybody the same, but I'm gonna treat everybody fairly.
yeah,
And that's, you have to kind of think deep about that because in a way, everybody should be treated the same in certain ways. But I think what my dad was saying is um, your your history kind of dictates your freedom, maybe.
yeah,
The more disciplined you are, the more you show up on time, the more you contribute to this and that. You might have a little bit of get out of jail free card that maybe this person doesn't have because they've been late 5 times and
yeah.
they're
Correct.
this kind of treatable. You know what I mean? So in a way you want to treat everybody the same, but in a way in certain ways you can't because you need to be people need to be treated according to what they've proven they can and can't handle. Right?
Yeah, and it's like my
He's right
dad
here
would
on
tell me this. He'd be like, "I'm going to give you enough rope until you hang yourself, and then I'm going to pull
yeah,
you back in. And then if you show
yeah,
you can be consistent again, like so, people are shocked to know, like if they know my brother, my sister, and I, like they're shocked to know that we didn't have a ton of rules growing up. Like
yeah,
we didn't have. It wasn't like curfews here. You do this. You do this. You do this. But it doesn't
yeah,
mean that he didn't say no either. Like he said no a
yeah,
lot, but it was
yeah,
always it was for my good. He would say no.
yeah,
And to your point, if I go out and do some things really wrong, and my brother is doing the things right, well, he's going to get a little more freedom, right? Like,
yeah,
because he
yeah. And
earned
you're
that.
gonna you're gonna get cracked down on a lot harder.
Correct. And I might have
Sure.
more oversight because I've shown that I couldn't handle freedom. But it doesn't mean that the love is different. It doesn't mean
Right.
it doesn't mean
Yep.
that the care is different.
Yeah.
Um, one of the guys that officiated, or the man that officiated my wedding, um, he's given me this picture and this difference between expectation and expectancy. I want to know your thoughts on this. So here's what he says, and maybe it's semantics, and I've kind of like joked at him. I'm like, I think you're kind of defining them for yourself, but let's just say these definitions are true. Okay, expectation is just the standard. I believe this is going to happen.
Yep.
This is the hope and the belief of something positive to happen. So basically, expectancy is like this driving force in, and belief in you.
Yep.
Expectation is just the bar. And
Yep.
so a lot of teams, organizations, businesses operate in that hierarchical expectation. Do this, just do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what happens if there's a gap between the standard and reality? There's just disappointment. And the people feel that. They feel like, oh, you're disappointed in me. Like I messed up again. I'm terrible and awful.
Yeah.
What happens with expectancy if there's a gap? There's the conversation of, I believe in you. You can do it. You can do it. I believe the only reason I'm holding this is because I believe in you so much. Not do this for me. I believe in you so much. And what happens with this, you end up blowing the roof off and you're like, you end up exploring these other areas because you know that this mentor, this dad, this coach believes in you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt like you operated in expectancy. Do you know what I mean? Have you seen the differences like throughout leaders? Is that making sense what I'm even saying?
Yeah, that's a good. I got to explore that one a little bit more, Sam. I've never heard it described that way between those two before. So that's why you see me right here. Like I got a pen. Like I'm writing a lot of stuff down now. Like I know I'm a coach, but I'm a note taker. I'm a learner. So that's something I might dive into just a little bit. I
Yeah.
like that. If I have a good answer or comment on that one, because I'd like to educate myself a little bit more on both of them before I
Yeah.
just start meddling.
Well,
But
I think about
yeah,
it with my sons right now, and I'm like, I don't want them. This goes into like a whole deeper conversation. It might be a good segue to talk about like what your Christian faith has meant to you. But I'd love to hear that too. But
yeah,
I don't want my sons to ever have a false view of God because they see my disappointed look
yeah,
constantly.
yeah,
Disappointed dad, like, oh, be better, be better, be better. Like, I
yeah,
want to be able to pull my son aside and have conversations and like look him in the eyes. Hey, this is who you can be.
yeah,
I'm really holding this consequence because I care for you. So the
yeah,
picture of the gospel is not God rubbing your face in the mess. It's
yeah,
actually him taking the penalty for it, then lifting your face up out of the mess. Right?
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's the expectation expectancy. What impact do you think? Because you told me that you grew up maybe in a structured church environment, and then you found maybe freedom in who Jesus was later on. How do you think
Yeah.
that's impacted your coaching? How has that impacted you and your family? What has that been like?
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So I grew up, like we talked about, in a Catholic household. My mom was very Catholic, beautiful mom. She's still alive. She lives in South Carolina, by the way, um, and baptized Catholic. And it was fine, but it never felt like growing up that like that was a strong connection I had to Christ through that. It was what I had to do. It was what my family wanted, which was fine. But then, you get into college, and I'm exploring what Jesus is, and I
Yeah,
don't really know. I don't really know because I either haven't paid attention
yeah,
enough when I was in Catholic masses, or they weren't teaching it the way that that hit me, which was probably I wasn't paying attention enough. Um, but I was exploring for it, and I just wasn't getting what I was looking for. So it was after college, probably when I was coaching in college, before I got my first NFL job. I started, attending a lot of non-denominational Christian churches,
yeah,
based on recommendations from either players or coaches or
yeah,
buddies. But it was intentional to go to this one and go to this one, and listen to the music and hear the sermon and meet these people, and it just felt like as I continued to do that, I came to know Christ a lot better
yeah,
because I started paying attention more probably. But I also had people that were willing to mentor and teach me about what I kind of didn't know.
yeah,
Um, it felt good. I love the music. That's why I listen to Christian music all the time.
yeah,
I love the music and the messaging and the lyrics. Um, but I love being in the church most of all. And so I think, you know, being Christian has impacted my coaching a ton
yeah,
with not trying to put that on players far as being overwhelming with
Yeah. Like Bible thumping them. Like, hey,
Christ,
do this.
but
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of living in a way where maybe they see me as a little bit different and kind of wonder why,
Yeah.
which leads to a conversation of why, which then we go into all of those things. So yeah, it's another tough one for me to not talk about, but just kind of answer. Um, that's just kind of my path to
Yeah.
finding Christ. Just a typical journey. Nothing bad happened that led me to it or good happened. It just kind of was just a growing up process that you kind of find your way. And once you kind of find it, and then you find a spouse that kind of holds those same values,
Yeah.
then it really root, and then you want to pass it on to your kids, not through thumping and making them and, you know, tightening the reins on them. It's just really trying to live in the Christ-like way that
Yeah.
makes them go,
Yeah.
why? And then you start talking about those things.
Yeah. The phrase like more is caught than taught like sticks out to me when I think about like Christian leaders specifically. It's like if you say one thing, understand that like I'm gonna catch more of your behavior than I'm gonna hear of what you say.
Yeah,
And so
for sure. Yeah.
more is caught than taught. So like you might say the scripture, you might memorize the scripture, but if your life does not reflect that, then like I'm not gonna want anything to do with that. You
Yeah.
know, um,
Yeah.
which is
One
interesting.
thing, Sam, I don't know if you remember, Sam, did we have Dojo Friday?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So that's taken on an incredible life over the last however many years. And I don't want to
Explain to
hold
everyone
on.
what that is.
It's very private, so I kind of don't want to
Okay. Okay.
because I've always respected that. Let's keep it for the
Okay.
guys in this room. But I bring that up because there's a lot of things we do on Fridays when I'm on the clock and I'm installing kickoff, weekend review and field goal. So these are 40 critical meeting minutes during the course of a game week that we kind of go go around and go sideways into something a little bit different that talks deeper into our lives in that moment.
Yeah.
So you know what it is. So it's very alive and well, and it's taken on an incredible life of its own that I think everybody should spend time doing,
Yeah.
even if it's critical on the clock minutes during the course of a very critical game week or game season. I just think you need to do it because the players sometimes need a reprieve from football,
Yep.
and they will feel like they're more than just number 54, you know, right tackle on punt team. They need to know that like, hey, I care about you, and you're having a bad day. Come on, talk about it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I've had a
Yeah. Gosh, that's awesome. And it's one of the many things again that just go back to your coaching personality that maybe I'm undermining others, but and I don't mean to do that at all. Like coaches in the NFL, all of them are the most elite thinkers and leaders out there. But I do think even in the midst of that, you stood out in that way. And yeah, you became that. Let me ask you this, going back to like your faith journey, which is awesome to hear about. Do you have any like maybe stories in scripture that stick out in your head? Any verses that you like come back clinging back to? I'll share one honestly in the season of life that my wife and I were in out in LA. I'll share one with you, but I want to know if any come to mind for you.
yeah, no, I probably not, Sam. I would definitely say I have a lot of theology to continue to learn when
Yeah,
it comes to you know remembering verses and things like that. But I spent a lot of time in the Bible. I can't say that there's one or a handful of them that I go back to. I know my daughter has quite a few
that's
that
awesome.
she has burned in her brain. Um, but I think a lot of the ones like we talked about before we got on here, there's certain books or journals or pamphlets that I read that are basically storytelling that have biblical kind of implications
Yeah,
that really attract me to, like we talked about, the cathedral builder.
Yeah.
Uh,
Tell that story real quick. Did you tell that?
yeah. The story of the cathedral builder is basically a story based on perspective. I think is the best way to describe it. Where there's an old man who takes a walk every day, and one day he decides to go a little different route because he sees something happening over in the corner of his neighborhood that he didn't really know what's going on. So he's walking down the street slowly, and he comes up to the first guy who's clearly, constructing something, and he asked the man who's on his knees. He said, "Hey, sir, what are you doing?" And the first guy goes, I'm laying bricks. Oh man, what does it look like I'm doing? And so that didn't really answer the question for the old man. So he walks down a little bit further down the street and turns the corner and comes up to another worker, clearly kind of working on the same project. And uh, he asked the worker, he says, sir, I live down the street and I'm interested in what's going on here. Can you tell me what you're doing? And the guy goes, hey man, I'm just collecting a paycheck. I'm trying to get in and get out. I get my paycheck. And I didn't answer the question for the old man. So he was still intrigued, and this is kind of his community. And so he goes a little further down, and he sees a hardworking guy doing the same project, kind of the same duties. And he goes, sir, what are you working on? What are you doing? And the worker stands up, puts the bricks down, raises his arms, and says, I'm building the cathedral. It's going to be a church for generations and generations of people in our community for generations to come. And he goes on and on and on about the work he's putting in and the reasons why he's doing what it's going to, and so that answers the question for the old man. So it's just a story of perspective is, you're laying bricks, you're collecting a paycheck, and you're building a cathedral.
No.
Your perspective on your work, I think, even if it could be the same exact job, determines kind of your joy and your mindset in life.
No doubt. Yeah. And again, in a profession where there's probably a lot of talk about efficiency, rightfully so, right? Like
Yeah.
no
Oh yeah.
no
Yeah.
wasted time. Like let's
Yeah.
not waste time.
Yeah.
And maybe some people from the outside, even business leaders, because some business leaders are going to listen to this, they'll be like, look, I don't have time to like motivate. I don't have time to inspire. And my rebuttal will be, you don't have time not to. Like
Not exactly. Yeah.
you need to, because if you're not connecting to them, you got nothing and you got a bunch of people just laying bricks. You got a bunch of people just collecting checks. You want
Yeah.
a bunch of people that are bought into the cathedral, that are
Yeah.
bought into like, man, this no matter what job you have, and gosh, you could be sweeping floors, you could be
Yeah.
coaching football, you could be a bricklayer. It doesn't matter, right? Like, are you connected to the why behind
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And those were meaningful minutes in that meeting. And
Mhm.
I'm pumped up that you still take meaningful time to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think, Sam, for all of us, and I know you're doing a lot of leadership seminars, but I think this is really important that, when somebody's in charge of, let's say, a 40-minute meeting, you want to have that thing pretty mapped out. That's 40 minutes where it's efficient, can't go overtime. Unless you're the head coach, you can go overtime. But if I'm supposed to be coach, I got 40 minutes. I don't get 41 minutes. But I'm gonna make sure I use the 40. And what I've started to do is, okay, I got a 40-minute meeting. I'm gonna really map this out for about 34 good minutes because I know there's going to be 5 or 6 minutes
yeah,
that aren't gonna be wasted, but there's gonna be some left turns taken that are gonna steer football a little bit. And it could even be a lot of times what I've started to recognize, and it doesn't happen very often, but let's say the meeting starts at 8 a.m. and I walk into the meeting and I'm ready to go at 8 a.m. But there's a lot of talking going on, a lot of conversations. I've learned to don't interrupt good conversations because my meeting has to start at 8 a.m. So sometimes I'll just kind of move off to the side and I'll kind of wink at the punter or I'll look in the back row and there's our special teams ace and I'll kind of give him the nod and give him the smile. He knows that nobody's paid attention to me, which is okay. I'm gonna let these conversations go because this is whatever's being talked about amongst all these different groups sounds pretty good, even though I can't make out one word. And so that might be 3 minutes of just the the six
that's
extra
so
minutes.
good.
So that's another thing where it comes back to like not trying to control too much. And when you kind of hear a good thing going, like don't interrupt it or
Yeah.
Don't stop everything from happening. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things.
That that reminds me of this thing I read a couple years ago. It's a good book. It's called "Take Back Your Family" by this guy named Jefferson Bethke. But he was talking about how to build like culture within your home and what that looks like. But he would give a lot of like business team examples too to kind of support it. And he mentioned this study by this guy named Alex Pentland, and they were studying great teams, and they put these trackers on people to like see how many conversations they would have with other people in their company and all this stuff. And they found the most successful teams were the ones that had the most small talk. And I was like,
Yeah,
wow,
I'm saying. Yeah.
that is because when I went into coaching, I was thinking like efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. After I read that, I was like, okay, not that efficiency is bad. Efficiency is great, and I want to be efficient. Absolutely, I want to be efficient. But like now, it's hey, communicate as much as possible. And I still feel the control welling up in me. Even this morning, we had our guys. We do acceleration work on Fridays, and they were running like this short hill sprint into like a flat hill or a flat sprint. And on the way back, there's a lot of like joking and playing and shoving, but they're not missing the work. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
still doing the work. And they were running hard. Like they were
Yeah.
running really hard. The control in me wants to go, get back, be disciplined. It's like, hold on. They love each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
It's so cool to
Yeah.
hear that an NFL coach who's as successful as you is like, yeah, they're talking and they're having a good time. I'll start a little bit after 8. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Let it go. And the reason why they're probably working so hard, which you're witnessing, is because they're enjoying the relationship and the work with the partner. And so it's important for us not to stop that good thing from happening. I think it's really important is, you want to be efficient. That's what I'm saying. Build in a couple minutes where the inefficiency happens, but that's part of the script. You know what I mean? I got 34 minutes of I'm gonna be efficient. We're gonna work football and we're gonna keep it tight. Then I got 6 minutes for whatever might happen that
Yeah.
ain't about a lot of it is the conversation. Like they're enjoying each other. I might not be able to. I might have to cut out 2 clips that I wanted to show on pump protection, but it's worth it because whatever they're talking about is good.
That right there is the thing we're talking about, right? Like that's the structure and freedom. You're
Yeah.
building in freedom, like within your structure of like, hey, I'm gonna plan for 34 minutes because I know there's gonna be stuff that's gonna it's gonna linger. I want to ask this. I'm so curious about this dynamic in the NFL specifically. Um, how do you hold people accountable? What does that look like? Is it just the fact that like, hey, you're in an elite league, and if you don't do the right thing, you're not going to be here very long? But there's also the dynamic of like, we can't ignore the fact that some people make millions of dollars, even more than coaches, right? So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how does accountability work with the NFL? How do you approach that? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I could probably only speak for myself from a special teams coordinator role because that's a little bit different than maybe like the head coach with
You're
the
right.
team role. But how do you hold players accountable? I've never used, and again, you could argue both sides. I could be wrong, but I've never used the threat of them losing their job against them. I've never used money or contract as a motivating factor to be accountable. I think that's kind of cheap if you ask me to, hey, if you don't do this, then we're going to cut you or you're going to lose your job. Like that's like, well, wait a minute, man. Like, geez, there's a better way to, I think, hold people accountable because that's probably not going to last. Um, it's a real good question. I think a little part of it is when you build such a strong relationship with a player. Doesn't mean buddy buddy. When you build such a strong relationship, there's an element where I felt that the way to hold somebody as accountable is they don't want to disappoint you.
Yeah. Because they love you.
Yeah, because they respect you, they love you, or they respect the room, or they love the room, or their teammates. And so,
Yep.
for example, if somebody's late, and they walk into a special teams meeting late, you can tell their disappointment and their sorrow
Yeah.
way more strong than if I turn them in and they get fined $6,000. It's
Yeah.
just a lot of personal elements. So I think the best way to hold people accountable is, and this is just me, is to build strong relationships over the course of time where their account is not wanting to disappoint you or their teammates or their group or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that would probably hold true for, you're the head coach at the high school. I think that would apply to probably you. You can't find him. You probably can't kick him off the team, which you don't want to do anyways. But you just build such a relationship and such a standard that the way to hold them to account is that they don't want to disappoint you, your
Yeah.
teammate, and their group.
Yeah.
Uh, that takes time and that takes a lot of earned trust and earned respect. But that has lasting power,
That's
and
good.
that's hard to do. It's hard to do.
There's
It's
so
hard
many
to
good
do.
nuggets on here. I think you're obviously just being yourself. There's so many things that I'm already taking away from this that are going to help me as as a coach, as a leader,
Yeah,
as
it's not hard.
what is
It's
that?
easy for us to sit here and talk about, being consistent and not cursing and building relationships and having like those are hard things to do. So it's not just coach speak sitting here like, oh yeah, anybody can do this. Like we all struggle with it, like but you have to be very intentional about, what are you about and what you're planning, and you got to stick to it.
I
Yeah.
have two more questions, and I'll make sure that we don't go over 90 minutes. I have two more questions for you. One, selfishly, I want to ask this just because of the fitness business stuff. How important is for you as a coach who is a young 51 years old? Isn't that what you told me? 51 years old.
And I appreciate you, man. I
Well,
haven't heard that in a long time.
you're young 51. How important it is for you to make sure you're staying healthy physically? How does that impact you as a coach? I mean, you're a guy that's done 3 Ironmans. Goodness, I could not imagine doing one. How important is that for you?
Yeah, it's not everything to me, but it's just about everything as far as me preparing for my job. I just feel like my endurance and my fitness and my energy throughout the course of the season is gained from the training I do. So obviously, I'm not training to perform as a professional athlete would. I'm training to be able to perform over very long season to have energy sustained. So I don't train for having a fit body.
Yeah,
I don't train for necessarily competition, but I feel like a big part of my job is to train to be prepared to be able to run on the field and be alert in meetings and have endurance over the course of many nights that get very long. So that helps me out a lot. I also feel like over the summertime, there's about a 4 or 5 week stretch between the end of OTAs and the start of training camp where the players very likely are training very hard. And I've always felt like as coaches, what do we take 4 or 5 weeks off and go to the beach and we hang out? And the players are over here working hard. So I feel there's a little bit of guilt to me where it's like, if the players are doing all this,
yeah.
I ain't gonna go golfing and hang out at the beach for 4 or 5 weeks.
Come on.
I gotta be ready for the season too. Now
Yeah,
I ain't playing, but it's my responsibility to be in shape to prepare for a very very long season. And my endurance is different than their endurance, so I train for that.
yeah.
So it's a long answer to a good question is I think it's all of our responsibilities to be healthy to endure as coaches, a long tough season.
That's good. We had my brother and I on the underground huddle that I was texting you about, which we'd love to get you on in March to that. And that's going to be something where there will literally be like 70 plus business leaders and different leaders in our community, in our network. Like Chris will probably actually be on again and you'll be able to see him. But it'll a bunch of people that are just trying to lead. We had one guy on named Dr. Howard, Dr. Chris Howard, who was the president at Hampton-Sydney College, and now he's the vice president at Arizona State University. Again, if you look at his resume, every individual line on there is like better, cooler than anything I've ever done. But he said this when we asked him that question. He was like, I've got to be my best when the circumstances are the worst. And one of the ways that I can do that is through staying physically fit. So like when when unfortunately it's just one of those weeks where you've got to run off of 3 hours of sleep that night because like something happened and whatever it may be, you still got to be the best possible coach you can be for the guys that you
Okay.
and
Yeah.
you're going to be able to do that if you're in shape.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yeah.
be hard to do that if
Yeah.
like you're overweight and you struggle walking and you it's going to be harder, it's going to make it more difficult for you. So it's cool to hear you echo a similar message there.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's a critical one. There's a couple of weeks last year in Dallas. We played Monday Night Football, and we get home and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. And I got to go right to the office. I don't get to sleep that night. We've got a Sunday night game coming up.
Yeah.
But then the Sunday night game at 3 in the morning, and I got to go right to work for the next Sunday game. So there's 2 out of 6 days where you don't sleep that whole night, and so that's what you train for.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Of all the things that I could ask you last, I want to ask this because I do send this to our players. Like I send this to guys that are in high school. So think of like young men,
Yeah,
14 to 18 years old. If you had any message for them to encourage them
yeah.
uh, as football players, but more importantly, as young men, as leaders in their family one day, in the community one day, how would you encourage those young men?
It's a good one. It's a great question. I'll keep it really brief, then I can elaborate later if you want.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn to some Friday Dojo Mojo.
Okay, come on.
Come on, you ready?
Yep.
I think you good one out. Because a lot of times when this happens, let me go to my mental bank with
Come on.
Dojo Mojo. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle.
Come on. Come on. I know it. I'm good. I'm good. I got it.
Let
A
me take it
candle
and run with
loses
that
nothing.
one. So just a sneak peek. So that would be a Friday Dojo Mojo, and then for 5 6 minutes, players get to talk about what they think that means, and it comes out in all kinds of different ways. So
Gosh.
uh, that's one we've liked and we use quite a bit. So
Gosh, that's
yeah,
good. That's good. Like in a world that maybe right now is about building up self, to think about building up others and lighting the flame for others.
yeah,
Um, the temptation is to believe that takes away from you, and it doesn't, right?
that's,
It doesn't.
that's
It
right.
actually builds you up.
I'm saying so. Yeah, there could be some good discussions on candle loses nothing by lighting another candle, and my daughters know that one well.
I love that. Bones, you are the man. I can't thank you so much. Seriously, you have had more of an impact on me in the 8 months that I just got to be a special teams player in your room every once in a while. You have more of an impact on me than you know. And just be encouraged, whatever it's worth for me. Like what you do matters. The way you speak to people, it matters. It builds people up. I'm so grateful to have known you and been coached by you. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Sam. I love being on here with you and all the things that you've learned, I've learned, and it's your job to pass it on and create the next Sam Rogers and the guy who takes over what you're doing. So that's all our jobs, right?
No
Is
doubt.
to learn, teach, pass it on, and hopefully we all do the right work. But love you, man. It's great to see you again and think about you a lot from all those days. And thanks for reminiscing a little bit because I don't forget it, but it's always good to be reminded of some of those days that we had together. So thank you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Tell Johnny and Joey I said hello. I'm jealous you get to be with those guys. I love them both so much. The redheaded
They're gonna
room
be
right there, man. Like that, they need a lot of sunscreen between the two of them. So
Oh yeah, and our snapper Morgan Cox. So we got everybody red bearded out.
come on, let's go. Let's go. Well, I
They'll
love
be
you,
here
Coach.
Tuesday
Thank you
again,
so
and
much.
they're gonna get it. Yeah, man.
You are the man. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks, Sam. See you, buddy. Thanks, man.